The encounter. Captain Maya Chen guided her salvage vessel, the Artemis, through the dense asteroid field in the outer reaches of the Proxima system. The ship's scanners had detected an anomalous energy signature unlike anything she'd encountered in her 15 years of salvage operations. Something big, something old, and something that didn't match any known human or alien technology in the database. Artemis Log, Day 47. I'm approaching the source of the energy signature. Initial scans show it's embedded in an asteroid cluster approximately 3 kilometers in diameter. Maya spoke into her recorder as she adjusted the ship's thrusters. If this turns out to be pre-war tech, the salvage rights alone could set me up for life. The Artemis floodlights illuminated the void ahead, revealing what at first appeared to be just another asteroid. But as Maya maneuvered closer, the true nature of the object became clear. It wasn't an asteroid at all, but an ancient structure, a fortress of some kind. Its dark metallic surface absorbing light rather than reflecting it. The fortress was massive, with spires and towers that stretched outward like the limbs of some great cosmic spider. Well, that's definitely not in any of the records, Maya whispered to herself, a thrill of discovery running through her. She'd found uncharted wrecks before, but nothing like this. This wasn't a derelict ship or abandoned mining station. This was something else entirely. Her ship's computer chimed, indicating it had found what appeared to be a docking bay. Maya's training told her to retreat, to call this in to the salvage authority and wait for backup. But the promise of what might be inside, technology from a civilization unknown to humanity, was too tempting. Artemis Log, Addendum. I'm going to dock and perform an initial reconnaissance. Standard protocols. If I don't report back in 12 hours, the ship's AI will transmit all data back to Proxima Station. The docking procedure went smoothly, too smoothly, as if the fortress had been expecting her. As the airlock cycled, Maya checked her exosuit's integrity one final time, ensured her sidearm was charged, and stepped into the unknown. The interior of the fortress defied her expectations. Rather than the cold, sterile environment typical of abandoned alien structures, this place felt alive. The walls pulsed with faint bioluminescence, casting everything in an eerie bluish glow. The air was breathable, according to her suit's sensors, but carried a sweet metallic scent that reminded her vaguely of copper. "Hello," Maya called out, immediately regretting breaking the silence. Her voice echoed down the corridor, seeming to travel much farther than it should have. No response came, but as she ventured deeper into the structure, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The corridors twisted and turned in ways that defied conventional architecture, sometimes seeming to loop back on themselves, despite her heading in a straight line. After what felt like hours of exploration, Maya entered what appeared to be a central chamber. The ceiling soared hundreds of meters overhead, with crystalline structures hanging like frozen waterfalls. At the center of the room stood a raised dais, and upon it, what looked like a throne made of the same dark material as the fortress itself. The throne was occupied. "You have finally arrived," came a voice, smooth as silk, but with an undertone that sent chills down Maya's spine. "I have waited a very long time for this moment." The figure rose from the throne with fluid grace. She, for the being appeared distinctly female, stood nearly 7 feet tall, her body lithe and powerful beneath flowing garments that seemed to be made of liquid shadow. Her skin was pale with an opalescent quality that shifted colors subtly as she moved. But it was her eyes that captivated Maya. They were entirely black except for vertical pupils that glowed a deep crimson. "Who are you?" Maya managed, her hand instinctively moving toward her sidearm. The alien smiled, revealing delicate fangs. "I am Nixella, Queen of the Ixalordi, last of the Ancient Ones." She descended the steps of the dais with a predatory grace. "And you, Maya Chen, are my destined mate." Maya's blood ran cold. "How do you know my name?" she demanded, drawing her weapon despite knowing instinctively it would be useless against this being. Nixella laughed, a sound like crystal chimes. I have known your name for centuries. Little human, I have seen your face in the cosmic weave of fate. She moved closer, and Maya found herself unable to retreat, her body frozen in place by some unseen force. Your species is so young, so brief in your existence. You cannot comprehend the tapestry of time as I do. What do you want from me? Maya asked, trying to keep her voice steady as the alien queen circled her, studying her with those unnerving crimson pupilled eyes. Want? Nixilla stopped directly in front of her. I do not want anything from you. I simply recognize what is. You are the one foretold in the ancient prophecy, the one whose blood resonates with the song of creation, the one who can end my solitude. She reached out, her long fingers stopping just short of touching Maya's face. The one who will become my eternal companion. Maya's mind raced through her options. This had to be some kind of trick, or perhaps she was hallucinating due to an unknown toxin in the air. Alien vampires with prophecies about human mates. It sounded like something from the pulp fiction she read as a teenager. I think there's been a mistake, Maya said firmly. I'm just a salvage captain. I'm not part of any prophecy, and I'm certainly not interested in becoming anyone's eternal companion. There is no mistake, Nixilla said, her voice hardening slightly. The stars themselves have aligned to bring you here. Your very molecular structure sings to me. Her expression softened. But I understand your confusion. It is much to accept at once. The alien queen turned and gestured toward a doorway that hadn't been there moments before. Come. Let me show you something that may help you understand. Every instinct told Maya to refuse, to try to find her way back to her ship. But the same invisible force that had held her in place now seemed to guide her forward, her feet moving of their own accord. What are you doing to me? She demanded. Nothing, Nixilla replied. It is not I who compels you, but the bond that already exists between us. You feel it too, though you do not yet understand it. They passed through the doorway into a chamber that took Maya's breath away. The entire room was a star map, not projected or displayed, but somehow contained within the very walls themselves. Stars, nebulae, and galaxies swirled around them in 3 dimensions, so realistic that Maya felt as if she were floating in space. This is the archive of time, Nixilla explained. It has recorded every significant cosmic event for the past 1,000,000 years. She waved her hand, and the stars shifted, rearranging themselves into new patterns, including this. The star map zoomed in on a small, unremarkable solar system. Maya recognized it immediately. That's the Sol system, she said. Earth. Yes, Nixilla nodded. Watch. The display shifted again, showing Earth's timeline accelerating rapidly. Maya watched as human civilization rose, fell, and rose again through the ages. Then something strange happened. A bright line of energy emerged from Earth, stretching across space, directly toward Proxima Centauri, Maya whispered. Where we are now. Yes, Nixilla said softly. This energy signature appeared exactly 29 Earth years ago, the moment of your birth, Maya Chen. The alien queen's eyes locked with hers. The prophecy states that when the last of the Ixalori has endured 1,000 years of solitude, a soul will be born among the young races whose essence is compatible with our own, a perfect match to end the loneliness of eternity. Maya shook her head, refusing to accept what she was hearing. This is insane. I'm not some prophesied savior or soulmate. I'm just a human who happened to pick up your energy signature. Did you? Nixilla asked, raising an elegant eyebrow. My fortress has remained hidden for centuries, shielded from detection by technologies your people cannot begin to comprehend. How interesting that your vessel, out of all the ships that have passed through this system, managed to detect it, precisely when you reached the age of maturity according to the prophecy. A chill ran down Maya's spine as the implications sank in. Had she really chosen to come here, or had she been drawn here by forces beyond her understanding? What exactly is it you think I'm supposed to do? Maya asked cautiously. Nixilla's expression became both tender and hungry. Become like me. Join with me. My species requires a life bond to sustain our immortality. For 1,000 years, I have endured alone, the last of my kind, sustained only by the knowledge that you would one day come. She stepped closer. I am what your myths might call a vampire, though the reality is far more complex. I require the vital essence of compatible beings to survive, not merely blood, but life force, freely given in a bond of mutual connection. And if I refuse? Maya asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Nixilla smiled sadly. You are free to try to leave, if that is your wish. But you will find that impossible now that you have entered my domain. The connection has already begun to form. She gestured to Maya's chest. Even now, your biological rhythms are synchronizing with the fortress, with me. Maya looked down and realized with horror that her heart was beating in perfect time with the pulsing lights of the walls around them. When she looked up again, Nixilla was directly in front of her, those crimson pupils dilated with hunger and desire. Rest now, the alien queen whispered. Tomorrow, you will begin to understand your destiny. Before Maya could protest, darkness claimed her. The challenge. Maya awoke on a bed that seemed to be growing directly from the floor of the chamber, organic, yet solid. Her exosuit had been removed, leaving her in the standard-issue bodysuit worn underneath, and her weapons were nowhere to be seen. She sat up quickly, fighting a wave of dizziness as the events of the previous day came rushing back. Alien fortress, vampire queen, prophecy, destined mate. The absurdity of it would have made her laugh if the situation weren't so dire. You're awake, came Nixilla's voice from across the room. The queen was seated at what appeared to be a console of living tissue, her long fingers dancing across surfaces that responded to her touch with pulses of light. Did you rest well? Where's my ship? Maya demanded, ignoring the question. Where's my equipment? Your vessel is where you left it, untouched. Nixilla replied calmly. Your weapons have been stored safely. You will not need them here. Maya stood, testing her legs. To her surprise, she felt stronger than ever, energized in a way she couldn't quite explain. I want to leave. Now. Nixilla sighed, rising from her seat with that same unnerving grace. As I told you yesterday, you may try. The main hangar is exactly where you remember it. Suspicious of the queen's compliance, Maya nonetheless headed for the door, which opened at her approach. The corridors seemed different today, straighter and better lit, as if the fortress itself had rearranged to accommodate her. She followed what she believed was the path back to her ship, and remarkably, it led her directly to the hangar where the Artemis waited, apparently untouched. Relief flooded through her as she approached her vessel. Perhaps the queen had been bluffing after all. She placed her hand on the biometric scanner, and the airlock hissed open. Everything inside looked normal. Maya quickly moved to the pilot's seat and initiated the launch sequence. The engines hummed to life, the ship's systems running through pre-flight checks. Everything was green. Maya engaged the thrusters, and the Artemis began to move away from the docking clamps. Then it happened. A searing pain exploded in her chest, radiating outward until every nerve ending was on fire. The ship's controls blurred before her eyes as she gasped for breath. It felt as if an invisible cord were stretching from her heart back to the fortress, pulling taut until she thought it would tear her apart. With trembling hands, Maya cut the engines. The moment she did, the pain subsided to a dull ache. She slumped in her seat, sweat beading on her forehead. I did try to warn you. Maya jerked her head up to find Nixilla standing in the doorway of the cockpit, looking at her with what appeared to be genuine concern. What did you do to me? Maya demanded, her voice hoarse. I did nothing, Nixilla said, moving into the cockpit and kneeling beside Maya's chair. The bond forms naturally between compatible beings when they are in proximity. It is not something I can control or prevent. Undo it, Maya said through gritted teeth. I cannot. No more than I can change the laws of physics that govern your universe. The Queen reached out, hesitating before placing a cool hand on Maya's forehead. The touch was soothing, instantly calming the residual pain. The bond can only be completed or broken, and breaking it would not end well for either of us. Maya pushed her hand away. So I'm your prisoner? No. Nixilla's eyes flashed with sudden intensity. You are my equal, the only being in the universe who can truly match me. That is why the prophecy exists. That is why you were born. I don't believe in prophecies, Maya retorted. Yet here you are. Nixilla countered. She stood, extending a hand. Come with me. There is more you need to see. Reluctantly, knowing she had little choice, Maya followed the Queen back into the fortress. This time, Nixilla led her deeper than before, down spiraling passages that seemed to descend toward the very core of the asteroid. They emerged into a vast cavern where the walls gleamed with veins of crystalline material that pulsed with inner light. At the center of the cavern stood a structure that resembled a temple, its architecture both beautiful and alien. This is the heart of Ix, Nixilla explained. The sacred place where my ancestors performed the bonding ceremony for countless generations. Inside the temple, murals covered the walls, depicting beings similar to Nixilla engaged in various rituals. In one, two figures stood within a circle of light, their bodies connected by streams of energy. My species evolved in a binary star system, Nixilla explained, gesturing to the murals. Our biology adapted to harness stellar energy, making us virtually immortal. But that immortality came with a price. We can only maintain our life force through bonding with compatible beings. You feed on them, Maya said grimly. No, Nixilla shook her head. The bond is symbiotic, not parasitic. Both partners share energy, memories, life itself. It grants the compatible one the same immortality, the same abilities. She turned to face Maya directly. I have waited a millennium for you because you are the only being in this era whose genetic structure is compatible with mine. That seems convenient, Maya said skeptically. On the contrary, it has been the greatest torture imaginable, Nixilla replied, a flash of genuine pain crossing her features. To exist alone, knowing that your destined partner lies somewhere among the stars, but unable to find them until the cosmic alignment is right. Despite herself, Maya felt a twinge of sympathy. What happened to your people? Why are you the last? Nixilla's expression darkened. War, disease, the inevitable decline of any species that believes itself immune to extinction. She turned away, running her fingers along one of the murals. I was young, barely 300 years, when the plague struck. Those who survived the disease fell in the wars that followed. Resources became scarce. Alliances shattered. In the end, I alone escaped, carrying the knowledge and legacy of my civilization in this fortress. I'm sorry, Maya said softly, surprised to find she meant it. Nixilla faced her again, something vulnerable in those alien eyes. The prophecy gave me hope when I had none. The belief that somewhere, someday, there would be one who could end my solitude. For a moment, they stood in silence, the weight of 1,000 years of loneliness hanging between them. I still can't just give up my life, my humanity, Maya said finally. I understand. Nixilla nodded, which is why I proposed the 3 trials of compatibility. Trials. Ancient tradition among my people, the Queen explained. When potential mates were uncertain of their bond, they would undergo 3 challenges to test their spiritual, mental, and physical harmony. She smiled slightly. If you complete these trials and still wish to leave, I will find a way to sever the bond, despite the consequences to myself. Maya considered this. If there was even a chance of escaping, of returning to her normal life, she had to take it. And if I refuse the trials, then we remain as we are, you unable to leave, me unable to complete the bond. A stalemate for eternity, as neither of us will age within this fortress. Not much of a choice, Maya muttered. Choice is the foundation of the bond, Nixila said. Without true acceptance, the bonding cannot be completed. I cannot and will not force you. Maya took a deep breath. Fine. What are these trials? For the first time, Nixila smiled fully, her fangs gleaming in the crystalline light. The first trial is one of spirit, a journey through the void of memory, where you will experience fragments of my past and I yours. You want to go inside my mind? Maya asked, alarmed. The experience is mutual, Nixila assured her. I will be as vulnerable to you as you are to me. Before Maya could protest further, Nixila moved to the center of the temple chamber, where a circular platform began to glow with energy. She gestured for Maya to join her. Hesitantly, Maya stepped onto the platform. Immediately, the light intensified, surrounding both of them in a cocoon of energy. Open your mind, Nixila whispered, taking Maya's hands in her own. Do not resist what you see or feel. The world dissolved around them, replaced by a kaleidoscope of images and sensations. Maya gasped as she was suddenly not herself, but Nixila, young, running through fields of crystalline vegetation under twin suns, the joy of youth pumping through alien veins. The scenes shifted rapidly. Nixila studying in vast libraries of knowledge, participating in sacred ceremonies, witnessing the first signs of the plague that would devastate her people. Maya felt the queen's anguish as she watched loved ones succumb, felt her determination as she fought to preserve what remained of her civilization, and finally, the crushing loneliness of centuries spent as the last of her kind. Just as suddenly, the perspective changed, and Maya knew that Nixila was experiencing her memories in turn. Her childhood on Earth's lunar colony, the loss of her parents in the colony uprising, her struggle to build a life as a salvage captain, the emptiness she never acknowledged that drove her to seek solitude among the stars. When the light finally faded, Maya found herself on her knees on the platform, tears streaming down her face. Opposite her, Nixila looked equally affected, dark liquid trailing from her eyes like obsidian tears. You have known great loss, the queen said softly. As have I. Maya wiped her eyes, unsettled by the intimacy of what they had just shared. What was the point of that? The first trial tests whether our spirits are compatible, whether we have walked similar enough paths to understand one another's pain and joy. Nixila helped her to her feet. We have passed. Before Maya could argue that she hadn't agreed to pass anything, the queen was leading her to another chamber for the second trial, a test of mental compatibility through a complex game of strategy that required them to work together against the fortress's eye. To Maya's surprise, she found herself working in perfect harmony with Nixila, their thoughts seeming to align without words. They anticipated each other's moves, complemented each other's strategies, and ultimately succeeded in defeating a challenge that Nixila claimed had been impossible for unbonded pairs. The third trial was physical, a combat scenario against holographic opponents that tested their ability to fight as one. Again, they moved in perfect synchrony, Maya's human adaptability complementing Nixila's ancient strength and speed. When the final opponent fell, Maya stood in the center of the training chamber, breathing hard but exhilarated. Something had changed during these trials. The initial fear and resentment had given way to a reluctant respect, and beneath that, something else, a connection she couldn't deny. We have completed all 3 trials, Nixila announced, not even slightly winded from the combat. The results are clear. We are compatible in spirit, mind, and body. So what now? Maya asked, suddenly uncertain. Nixila's expression softened. Now, as promised, you have a choice. I can attempt to sever the bond, freeing you to leave despite the damage it will cause me. Or, she hesitated, or you can stay, and we can complete the bond, becoming true equals in immortality. Maya looked into those alien eyes and saw for the first time, not a predator or a captor, but a being who had endured unimaginable solitude, and who was willing to continue that suffering if it meant respecting Maya's choice. I need time, Maya said finally, to think. Nixila nodded. Of course. Return to your ship if you wish. The bond is stable enough now that short distances will not cause you pain. She turned to leave but paused at the doorway. Maya, thank you for undertaking the trials. Regardless of your decision, I am grateful for the end of my solitude, however brief. Left alone, Maya returned to the Artemis, her mind in turmoil. The memory sharing had affected her more deeply than she wanted to admit. She had felt Nixala's loneliness as if it were her own. 1,000 years of isolation, watching civilizations rise and fall while remaining unchanging, sustained only by the hope of an ancient prophecy. As she sat in the cockpit, Maya activated the ship's communication system. If she contacted Proxima Station, explained her situation, perhaps they could send help. Yet, as her finger hovered over the transmit button, she hesitated. What would she even say? That she'd been claimed as the destined mate of an alien vampire queen. That she participated in ritual trials and found herself strangely drawn to this ancient being. They'd think she was insane or compromised. More troubling still was the realization that a part of her, a part that grew stronger by the hour, didn't want to be rescued at all. The choice. 3 days passed as Maya deliberated. She divided her time between the Artemis and exploring the fortress, which seemed to reveal new wonders with each visit. Nixala kept her distance, respecting Maya's need for space, but remaining available to answer the increasingly frequent questions Maya found herself asking. How long would I live? Maya asked as they walked through what appeared to be a garden of crystalline plants, living light pulsing through transparent veins. Barring violence or catastrophe, indefinitely, Nixala replied. The bond sustains both partners equally. My oldest ancestors lived for over 10,000 years before choosing to end their existence. They chose to die. Nixala nodded. Immortality is a gift, but also a burden. Some find that after millennia of experience, they have seen enough. The choice to end is as sacred as the choice to bond. Maya considered this. Would I change? Physically, I mean. Some aspects, yes, the Queen admitted. Your cellular structure would alter to accommodate the energy exchange necessary for immortality. Your senses would sharpen, your strength and speed would increase, and yes, you would develop certain nutritional requirements. You mean I'd need blood? Maya said bluntly. Life essence, Nixila corrected, which can be synthesized, as I have done for centuries. The romanticized image of the predatory vampire is a misunderstanding of my species' biology. Maya was silent for a moment, watching the play of light through the crystal garden. What if you're wrong about me? What if I'm not really this prophesied mate? The first trial tests whether our spirits are compatible, whether we have walked similar enough paths to understand one another's pain and joy. Nixila helped her to her feet. We have passed. Before Maya could argue that she hadn't agreed to pass anything, the Queen was leading her to another chamber for the second trial. A test of mental compatibility through a complex game of strategy that required them to work together against the fortress's eye. To Maya's surprise, she found herself working in perfect harmony with Nixala, their thoughts seeming to align without words. They anticipated each other's moves, complemented each other's strategies, and ultimately succeeded in defeating a challenge that Nixala claimed had been impossible for unbonded pairs. The third trial was physical, a combat scenario against holographic opponents that tested their ability to fight as one. Again, they moved in perfect synchrony, Maya's human adaptability complementing Nixala's ancient strength and speed. When the final opponent fell, Maya stood in the center of the training chamber, breathing hard but exhilarated. Something had changed during these trials. The initial fear and resentment had given way to a reluctant respect, and beneath that, something else, a connection she couldn't deny. We have completed all 3 trials, Nixala announced, not even slightly winded from the combat. The results are clear. We are compatible in spirit, mind, and body. So what now? Maya asked, suddenly uncertain. Nixala's expression softened. Now, as promised, you have a choice. I can attempt to sever the bond, freeing you to leave despite the damage it will cause me. Or, she hesitated, or you can stay, and we can complete the bond, becoming true equals in immortality. Maya looked into those alien eyes and saw for the first time, not a predator or a captor, but a being who had endured unimaginable solitude, and who was willing to continue that suffering if it meant respecting Maya's choice. I need time, Maya said finally, to think. Nixela nodded. Of course. Return to your ship if you wish. The bond is stable enough now that short distances will not cause you pain. She turned to leave but paused at the doorway. Maya, thank you for undertaking the trials. Regardless of your decision, I am grateful for the end of my solitude, however brief. Left alone, Maya returned to the Artemis, her mind in turmoil. The memory sharing had affected her more deeply than she wanted to admit. She had felt Nixela's loneliness as if it were her own. 1,000 years of isolation, watching civilizations rise and fall while remaining unchanging, sustained only by the hope of an ancient prophecy. As she sat in the cockpit, Maya activated the ship's communication system. If she contacted Proxima Station, explained her situation, perhaps they could send help. Yet, as her finger hovered over the transmit button, she hesitated. What would she even say? That she'd been claimed as the destined mate of an alien vampire queen. That she participated in ritual trials and found herself strangely drawn to this ancient being. They'd think she was insane or compromised. More troubling still was the realization that a part of her, a part that grew stronger by the hour, didn't want to be rescued at all. The choice. 3 days passed as Maya deliberated. She divided her time between the Artemis and exploring the fortress, which seemed to reveal new wonders with each visit. Nixela kept her distance, respecting Maya's need for space, but remaining available to answer the increasingly frequent questions Maya found herself asking. How long would I live? Maya asked as they walked through what appeared to be a garden of crystalline plants, living light pulsing through transparent veins. Barring violence or catastrophe, indefinitely, Nixela replied. The bond sustains both partners equally. My oldest ancestors lived for over 10,000 years before choosing to end their existence. They chose to die. Nixela nodded. Immortality is a gift, but also a burden. Some find that after millennia of experience, they have seen enough. The choice to end is as sacred as the choice to bond. Maya considered this. Would I change? Physically, I mean. Some aspects, yes, the Queen admitted. Your cellular structure would alter to accommodate the energy exchange necessary for immortality. Your senses would sharpen, your strength and speed would increase, and yes, you would develop certain nutritional requirements. You mean I'd need blood? Maya said bluntly. Life essence, Nixela corrected, which can be synthesized, as I have done for centuries. The romanticized image of the predatory vampire is a misunderstanding of my species' biology. Maya was silent for a moment, watching the play of light through the crystal garden. What if you're wrong about me? What if I'm not really this prophesied mate? The choice. 3 days passed as Maya deliberated. She divided her time between the Artemis and exploring the fortress, which seemed to reveal new wonders with each visit. Nixela kept her distance, respecting Maya's need for space, but remaining available to answer the increasingly frequent questions Maya found herself asking. How long would I live? Maya asked as they walked through what appeared to be a garden of crystalline plants, living light pulsing through transparent veins. Barring violence or catastrophe, indefinitely, Nixela replied. The bond sustains both partners equally. My oldest ancestors lived for over 10,000 years before choosing to end their existence. They chose to die. Nixela nodded. Immortality is a gift, but also a burden. Some find that after millennia of experience, they have seen enough. The choice to end is as sacred as the choice to bond. Maya considered this. Would I change? Physically, I mean. Some aspects, yes, the Queen admitted. Your cellular structure would alter to accommodate the energy exchange necessary for immortality. Your senses would sharpen, your strength and speed would increase, and yes, you would develop certain nutritional requirements. You mean I'd need blood, Maya said bluntly. Life essence, Nixila corrected, which can be synthesized, as I have done for centuries. The romanticized image of the predatory vampire is a misunderstanding of my species' biology. Maya was silent for a moment, watching the play of light through the crystal garden. What if you're wrong about me? What if I'm not really this prophesied mate? Nixila smiled gently. The trials confirmed what I already knew. But if you require further proof, she reached out, placing her palm against Maya's chest, directly over her heart. Listen. Maya closed her eyes, focusing on her heartbeat. Then she noticed it. A secondary rhythm, layered just beneath her own, perfectly synchronized yet distinct. Nixila's heartbeat, echoing within her. That's, Maya couldn't find the words, the beginning of the bond. Nixila finished for her. It will only grow stronger with time, whether we complete it or not. That evening, Maya returned to the Artemis to find her ship's communication system activated. A message was coming through from Proxima Station. Captain Chen, this is Commander Vasquez. We've detected your ship's beacon in an unexplored sector. Your scheduled check-in is overdue by 7 days. Please respond. If no response is received within 48 hours, a rescue operation will be initiated. Repeat, please respond. Maya stared at the console, her heart racing. This was it, her chance at rescue, at returning to her old life. All she had to do was respond. Her fingers hovered over the transmitter. What would she say? That she was fine. That she needed rescue. Neither felt entirely true anymore. Before she could decide, an alarm blared throughout the ship. The proximity alert. Something was approaching. Fast. Maya rushed to the scanner. A vessel was dropping out of FTL on the far side of the asteroid field. A military cruiser bearing Proxima Defense Force markings. They hadn't waited for her response. She hurried back to the fortress, finding Nixila in the central chamber, already aware of the approaching ship. Your people come for you, the Queen said, her expression unreadable. As is their right. They'll attack this place, Maya said, surprised by the concern in her own voice. They'll see it as a threat. The fortress has defenses, Nixila replied calmly, but I will not use them against those who come to save you. Maya stared at her. You'd let them destroy everything. Your home, your history. If that is the cost of honoring your choice, yes. Nixila turned to face her fully. I told you from the beginning. The bond requires free will. If you wish to return to your people, I will not stop you. The communication system of the fortress activated, projecting a holographic image of Commander Vasquez in the center of the chamber. Unknown structure, this is Commander Elena Vasquez of the Proxima Defense Force. We have detected one of our vessels docked at your location. We are here to retrieve Captain Maya Chen. Respond immediately, or we will consider this a hostile action. Maya stepped forward into the projection's view. Commander, this is Captain Chen. I'm fine. There's no need for hostility. Relief crossed the commander's face. Captain Chen, are you being coerced? Are you in danger? Maya glanced at Nixila, who stood silently, waiting. No, Commander. I'm here voluntarily. The being who resides here has treated me with respect. Suspicion replaced relief on Vasquez's face. We're reading unusual energy signatures from that structure, Captain. For your safety, we insist you return to your vessel and depart immediately. We'll escort you back to Proxima Station. The moment of decision had arrived. Maya looked at Nixila, remembering everything they had shared. The trials, the conversations, the growing connection she could no longer deny. She thought of returning to her old life. The endless salvage missions, the isolation of space, the emptiness she had never been able to fill. Then she thought of what Nixala offered. Immortality, yes, but more than that. Understanding. Connection. An end to the loneliness they both had carried for too long. "Commander," Maya said, her voice steady. "Thank you for coming, but I won't be returning to Proxima Station." "Captain, if you're under some form of mind control." "I'm not," Maya interrupted. "I'm making a choice. My choice. Please inform the Salvage Authority that I'm formally relinquishing my commission and my vessel." Vasquez looked stunned. "Maya, this is crazy. Whatever this alien has told you is between us," Maya finished firmly. "I appreciate your concern, Commander, but my decision is final." After several tense moments, Vasquez nodded reluctantly. "Very well, Captain. Per regulations, I'll have to report this as a voluntary separation. Your accounts will be frozen for 90 days pending review." "I understand. Thank you, Commander." The projection faded, leaving Maya and Nixala alone in the chamber. Outside, the military cruiser lingered for several minutes before finally turning and disappearing back into FTL. "You chose to stay," Nixala said softly, wonder in her voice. Maya turned to her. "I chose you," she corrected. "I don't fully understand this bond between us, but I want to. I want to see what we could become together." Nixala stepped closer, her eyes searching Maya's face. "The bonding ceremony, it cannot be undone." "Are you certain?" Maya took a deep breath, then reached out, taking Nixala's hands in her own. The contact sent a wave of energy through her, their heartbeats synchronizing even further. "Yes," she said. "I'm ready." The temple at the heart of the fortress came alive with ancient energies as Nixala led Maya to the central platform. The crystalline structures pulsed with increasing intensity, resonating with the rhythm of their synchronized hearts. "The ceremony requires an exchange," Nixala explained, her voice solemn. "Blood and energy, freely given to forge the eternal bond." Maya nodded, no longer afraid. "Tell me what to do." Nixala drew a ceremonial dagger from a hidden alcove. Its blade gleamed with an inner light, not metallic but crystalline. "First, we share blood, the carrier of life essence." She drew the dagger across her palm, dark opalescent liquid welling from the cut. Then she offered the dagger to Maya, who did the same, crimson blood flowing from her human flesh. They joined hands, blood mingling, and the effect was immediate. Energy surged between them, brilliant and all-consuming. Maya gasped as she felt Nixala's consciousness intertwine with her own. Not invasive but complementary, two pieces of a cosmic puzzle finally fitting together. "Now," Nixala whispered, "the final step." She leaned forward, her lips brushing against Maya's neck. "May I?" Maya tilted her head in silent permission. The bite was gentle, precise, nothing like the violent attacks of human vampire legends. Maya felt a brief sting, then a rush of pleasure so intense it bordered on transcendent. She was vaguely aware of Nixala guiding her to return the gesture, her newly sharpened canines sinking into the queen's silver skin. The exchange of life essence completed the circuit. The energy that had been building throughout the fortress coalesced around them, binding them together at the most fundamental level. Maya felt her body changing, adapting, becoming something new yet still fundamentally herself. When it was over, they stood together in the heart of the temple, transformed. Maya looked down at her hands, now subtly opalescent like Nixala's. She could feel the fortress around them, could sense the vast expanse of space beyond, could perceive time itself in ways her human mind never could have comprehended. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice containing new harmonics. Nixala,